That's an overstatement. First of all, unlike the other three people that you've heard tonight, nobody wants to watch me sing, paint, write, sculpt, or any of those other things. So I'm part of the group of people that's necessary in the community that enjoys the arts and is mystified by what artists produce. I can't get it. I think it's important to note that the nature of this gathering is to recognize that the arts really do play a part in our economy. So I'm glad to see that there are people beginning to connect the arts as critical to the economy. The Arts and an Arts Council actually flourished in the past, and we had an Arts Council in the past. But always the issue of finding the money and support for finding the money is at the forefront. That's because people just don't seem to believe that arts communities bring money. They see too much about the starving artist image, and they get an out-of-date perspective. And you've heard already that that is not true. Artists and arts do bring money, as you saw in one of the first slides. But because the arts involve such an extremely diverse array of people and talents, venues, and needs, there's always the question of how do we really organize? I see the creation of a real functioning arts council as nearly a cataclysmic event in this region, if we can get it done. The arts have been played perhaps more than other facets of our community by lots of groups all wanting to own the solution to the lack of organized support for arts in our community. And that has actually changed with this arts steering committee and some groups in the community saying, okay, we're not going to try to do this by ourselves, we're going to contribute and be part of this overall process. So that's a big change already. I hope that the help and guidance of the North Carolina Arts Council, which has been huge, will have proven the framework for getting that organization done. I don't know when the Arts Council, the lowercase here, was originally formed, and maybe somebody in the room who does yell out. But when I got here in 1975, it was here along with Piney Woods Festival. I was the city's representative to the board in its last years and saw it failing and saw it fall in 2002. While that Arts Council did a lot of things in the community and tried to find ways to fund its organization, it had created problems for itself in terms of how it handled its money, and it had a blot on its record with the IRS. You can't get private funding when that occurs. In 2002, the state cut arts funding significantly and hurt our council and others across the state. The same year, the county withdrew a similar amount of funding, and that left the city, and with our $16,000, which was our share, we could not sustain the council, clearly. So it went away. And I'm sorry to be the one to talk about the sad part of this story, but we haven't had an arts council since 2007, and we deserve one. The city has provided since then a base of support for the arts, and in the last few years has invested about $8 million on various projects, one of the biggest of which recently was the $3 million for Barry Hall. In addition, the state has continued to make the effort to find outlets for the grassroots arts grants, and Ruth Haas of the Cape Fear Museum has put a lot of effort into that process, as did the CCC, the Creative Cultural Council, which used to be BLACA, and Creative Wellington. So our community has had small bits, relatively speaking, of arts grant support, but nowhere near the funding we're entitled to. Winston-Salem, who tags their city with an arts phrase, gets $4 million directly from work that the Arts Council does. That doesn't count all the events and everything. I personally think they have to work at it. They have to decide that the arts is going to take an important position, and they have to put out for it, and they value that benefit. We have so many things in this community that we just fall into, and then we tend to ignore them until somebody else goes after them. We have taken some important steps with the steering committee to overcome the challenges and with the help of the State Arts Council. And I want to mention Wayne Martin, Leanne Wilder, and Nancy Trevelyan. For once, truly, the experts came from 30 miles away, and they came from the government, and they were here to help. It is a requirement that the new Arts Council has a level of objective credibility, and probably the only way to really get that is with local government support. And then it should be like sourdough bread. And I'll bet y'all didn't know that I could bake bread.
You are at odds.
No. You keep adding to the starter with private funding until you can take out a significant size loaf. And you leave the rest to continue to grow. But you have to keep adding to the starter. If you use the starter up, it won't work anymore. If you don't get it started, you can't make bread. You have to have the starter and you have to keep it fed. And an Arts Council is very much like that. We're in a different place than we have ever been before. While the study did take place in 2000, it was somewhat limited in the list of people that have been interviewed this time and the local opportunity to participate in the arts has been seriously considered. This has really been an inclusive, research-based effort, and I hope that that will make the difference. And I'm thrilled to see people here who also run Arts Council. And I hope those of you who get this will make it a point to speak to your elected officials who have to make the decision to fund this or not. I really believe that such a policy-making and professionally staffed organizations can help artists compete for projects and recognition, be a central repository for funding, provide support for artists in terms of business planning, insurance issues, and education. It can and should also support community-wide venues for personal and free interaction between citizens and artists across the entire region. We are so much poorer without it. Just as a specific example, this is the National League of Cities weekly publication, and there's an item in here from the National Endowment for the Arts that arts organizations can apply for up to $250,000, and they will award 35 to 40 of those grants across the country. We will not even be in the running until we get an Arts Council up and going. It will bring money into the community, and we should have our fair